The Federal Bureau of Investigation has also forwarded a list of more than 100 names to numerous law enforcement organizations. These are the names of individuals the FBI would like to talk to because we believe they may have information that could be helpful to the investigation. The organizations that we have submitted these names to include the Federal Aviation Administration, the airlines, FBI field offices, about 18,000 police departments across America, the U.S. Border Patrol, and the U.S. Customs Service. Now, the nature of this list is that it would be changing constantly as people are either removed from it or added to it. But we believe that the individuals on the list may have information that could be helpful to us in our efforts. I want to take this moment to extend our appreciation to state and local law enforcement organizations that have cooperated with this investigation, have acted responsibly, and have been very helpful to us. Their dedication and swift action has been essential to the progress of the investigation. I'm pleased now to call upon the Director to give you some more information.
Before we answer questions, I thought I would fill you in on the extent of the investigation to date. As of today, we have 4,000 FBI special agents who are working on the case in various offices around the country and on various aspects of the investigation, and we have 3,000 support employees also on the investigation. 20 FBI LEGAT offices are running down leads overseas, and all 56 FBI offices around the country are engaged in the investigation. We have conference calls several times a day to make certain that everything is being coordinated appropriately. To date, we have had more than 36,000 total leads. Of those, over 30,000 have come in off the Internet. 3,800 have been received on the FBI hotline, and another 2,400 have been generated through the various field offices. As you well know and have picked up, we've conducted hundreds of interviews around the country. We've served over 30 search warrants in various places. Hundreds of subpoenas have been issued, and we have, in the course of seizing some of those executing some of those search warrants, we have seized computers, other documentary information that we are following up on. One other point I'd make before we respond to questions, and that is that we have dispatched sent to the various major airports FBI agents, teams of FBI agents, to assist in quickly resolving any incidents that may come up when passengers or passengers are attempting to board an aircraft or obtain a ticket, and there's some question raised, so we can minimize the inconvenience to the person who may well be stopped and also swiftly resolve the issue. And with that, I believe we're happy to take whatever questions you might have.
Director, have you obtained under seal or otherwise any fugitive from justice warrants or level any kind of charges against anyone in this investigation?
Well, under seal, I probably couldn't tell you, but I can say that there have been no FBI arrests at this time. Any detentions that have occurred have been pursuant to immigration holds where an individual has been out of status.
On the list of hijackers, have they been connected to organizations connected to Bin Laden?
And I can't get into the details of that.
Does it astonish you that...
Sorry, we'll take one and then two. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Does it astonish you that they trained, all their training came to the U.S., there were so many of them trained as pilots, and that they lived in the open, weren't hiding their identities here? Did any of that astonish you or shock you?
Well, the tragedies quite clearly astonish and shock me and the country. The fact that there were a number of individuals that happened to receive training at flight schools here is news, quite obviously. If we had understood that to be the case, we would have, perhaps one could have averted this. But beyond that, I and I think everybody else is just astonished at the extent of the tragedy as a result of what happened last Tuesday. Yes, sir.
Director, there were 2 people removed from the flight last night, I guess, in New York, and those two people's names appeared on a list. How were they able to board if their names were on?
Well, I can tell you that that was pursuant to a watch list. Other than those names were pursuant, were on the watch list for reasons not related to this investigation.
Mr. Mueller, on the list of the hijackers, 2 quick questions. One is there are several shared last names. Were many of them related to one another? And the second question is Delray Beach and Hollywood, Florida seem to be very common residences. Do you know whether those were like bases of operation for these men?
I can't. We are still, while we have the names for the manifests and are still pursuing investigations of those names to try to document and absolutely be certain that the person who went down the plane fits with the name on the manifest. The further association of the names we're still investigating.
Director, what can you tell us about?
All I can say that there are a number of places in the country, without specifying any particular place, where we have conducted a number of interviews and several search warrants, and executed several search warrants.
What can you tell us about a D.C. police all-points bulletin being put out about a silver or gray minivan? They may be carrying a chemical weapon.
I can't tell you anything about that. Yes, sir.
What have you learned from the cockpit voice recorder and from the flight data recorders of the 2 planes?
They're currently over at the NTSB, and I think the question should be directed to the NTSB on those at this instant.
They've referred us to you.
As of this moment, we have not learned or received anything off those recorders. Well, actually, I should say we have not received anything off the voice data recorder. There is that recorder, which is other than the voice data recorder at the Pentagon that we picked up, and we did receive information off that.
What did that tell you about that flight, about its path?
I can't get into that now, sir. Yes, sir.
What confidence do you have that the names on the list are actually the people who were on the plane as opposed to aliases or stolen identities? Do you have a level of confidence there yet?
I think we have a fairly high level of confidence, but when we spoke to you yesterday, we had 18 individuals who we believed were the hijackers. We now have a 19th that our investigation has disclosed was probably one of the hijackers on that plane that left Dulles, and consequently, continuous investigation updates our confidence or level of confidence, degree of confidence in assuring that the person who actually was on the plane is associated with the name. Yes, sir.
Do you identify any suspects or individuals who are still at large who may have been the leaders or masterminds of this conspiracy?
I'm sorry, what?
Have you identified any suspects who you believe are still at large in the United States who are the masterminds or leaders of this conspiracy?
I cannot get into the details of the investigation. Suffice it to say, if we believe that there is somebody in the United States who is associated with this conspiracy and we had evidence upon which to base a charge, we would have and would level that charge. Yes, sir.
Can you say anything about the immigration status of the 19? Were any of them out of legal status?
I believe we tried to provide some of those visa details on the listing that we provided to you. I can say that some of them were out of status, yes. I'm not certain how many or which names or which individuals whose names appeared on the manifest and we believe to be a hijacker was out of status. Yes.
It's common for the FBI to name a case agent in a big case. Have you yet done that on this one?
The investigation is being run by Tom Picard out of headquarters here with Dale Watson and numerous other, I would say, senior FBI agents assisting in various capacities.
And the name of the investigation, sir. Has the investigation been given a name, and what is it?
Pent Bob.
the FBI briefing goes on. There are a number of things we want to deal with there. Before we do that, the President is making his way to New York. We have a pool report from the flight from David Gregory, who is the pool reporter on it, and we can listen in on that now.
Gregory traveling with President Bush, where he has just touched down at McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey. I'm reporting from a government helicopter that is about to take off and accompany Mr. Bush, as he has just boarded Marine One and is preparing to tour the damage around the World Trade Center. The President was greeted upon his arrival just moments ago by Governor Pataki of New York and Mayor Giuliani. The three men were casually dressed, all wearing steamer jackets, windbreakers, and hats. The three men embraced as Mr. Bush got off the plane. Mr. Bush has had a sullen look on his face since emerging before reporters after the service at National Cathedral. Again, if it's difficult to hear, the helicopter is about to take off now. Just 3 days after Air Force One was designated a target by the Secret Service, the security was again extraordinary today. When reporters arrived at Andrews Air Force Base outside Washington, 2 fighter jets were visible patrolling the skies overhead just as the President's helicopter, Marine One, approached Andrews Air Force Base. The flight over, again, a reminder of how tense the Secret Service is about the President's security, as again, a fighter jet was visible within 1 to 2 miles off the right wing of Air Force One, presumably another jet off the left wing as well. The President traveled on Air Force One with a congressional delegation from the tri-state area, and on board with him 9 members of that delegation, including Senators Clinton and Schumer of New York. The President now proceeding to the World Trade Center, and will report later once he gets on the ground after his aerial tour. This is David Gregory reporting with the President in New Jersey.
And that's the pool report with the kind of detail that other reporters, which is where that report goes to, want to hear, including what people are wearing, who's with the President, and so on. If we can get back Betcher and Ensor here, Mike and David, respectfully, there were a couple of things that came up in the briefing that play into the conversation we were having about the possibility that other terrorists are still in the country, where or what they might be. Mike, let me start with you, because you've been working the domestic side of this as David's been dealing with the intelligence community largely, though not exclusively. Here's how I heard it to the FBI director. We heard reports of a gray minivan carrying a chemical weapon. Can you tell us anything about that? And he said, I can't tell you anything, which tells me literally nothing. So tell me if you're hearing anything about that, what to make of that.
Well, I can tell you I know zip about that.
Okay.
That was a new one, but I will say that there is another list out there, which is right here. There are 52 people on this list, and these are people on a watch list being distributed around the country. Some have already been cleared, so the list is shrinking, but they want to talk to some of these people we don't know as material witnesses or as possible suspects. Aaron?
I want to get to that in a second. David, let me go to you again. There's a lot of things out there right now, and there's a lot of it's rumor and a lot of it's not, or perhaps it's not. We're not sure. Have you heard anything about this minivan? And if you haven't, we'll move on from it.
No, I have not.
Okay.
But they are worried about a number of different kinds of threats. They are not giving details. Yesterday I was in the streets of Washington, and there was a bomb scare we haven't even reported yet, but on Connecticut and M. There may have been nothing to it, but there's a lot of that kind of stuff going on, and a good deal of nervousness among U.S. officials, Aaron.
All right, then let's go back to the beginning of your report some time ago. Sources telling you no reason to believe that all the terrorists have been found. And we were trying to figure out, in a sense, what that meant. And my concern here is on the lower third of the screen, it said other terrorist plots in play or something to that effect. I mean, that may be more to come. Is that what they're saying, that they believe that there is a plot out there that is not yet over?
I started by hearing from someone the negative, the expression that I just gave you, that there's no reason to believe that there are not, that all the perpetrators have been rounded up and are not dead or in jail. So I said, well, can we say it in the positive? Can we say that there are terrorists in the United States that you believe are, have additional plans to attack targets?